Today's guest is not just a serial entrepreneur, he's a builder of infrastructure in one of the most regulated and sensitive industries in the world. Brendan Coughlin has spent over 35 years building and acquiring companies across multiple industries. Today, he helps lead Global Telehealth Services, the maker of GTS VirtualHealth, the only FedRAMP authorized treatment at distance and remote patient monitoring SaaS platform in the global marketplace. FedRAMP is not just compliance, it represents federal graded security, rigorous controls, and operational discipline at the highest level. In an era where AI is being layered into healthcare and patient data is more sensitive than ever, building at this level requires more than speed. It requires architecture, governance, and long-term thinking. Today, we are diving into what it takes to build defensible healthcare platforms, how compliance become a competitive edge, and where AI is truly making a difference.
Welcome to the Lessons from the Leap podcast, where we showcase visionary entrepreneurs and leaders, sharing their incredible journeys and inspiring stories. Let's dive into the show.
Hello, and welcome to Lessons from the Leap. I'm your host, Ghazenfar Mansoor. On this show, I sit down with entrepreneurs, business leaders to talk about the bold decisions and innovative ideas that shape their journey. This episode is brought to you by Technology Rivers. We bring innovation through AI and technology to solve real-world industry problems. Most of our work is on the healthcare space, where we work with health tech companies, physician entrepreneurs, healthcare systems, helping them build HIPAA-compliant software products, as well as improving operations of the healthcare service business through AI and technology. If you'd like to learn more, head over to technologyrivers.com and tell us more about your project. Today, we're joined by Brendan Coughlin, a serial entrepreneur with over 35 years of management experience and specialist in scaling early-stage companies across tech, manufacturing, and healthcare. Brendan, welcome to the show. Just give us an intro to our audience. Let us know who you are and anything you want to share about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, nice to be here, Ghazenfar, and thanks for the invitation. As you mentioned, my name is Brendan Coughlin. I'm currently one of the co-owners of a company called Global Telehealth Services. We're a software as a service platform in the health tech space. We have developed the only FedRAMP authorized remote patient monitoring and treatment at distance software platform specifically designed for the federal space. We have an enterprise-wide contract with the Veterans Administration and are pursuing other paths within the federal government for those agencies that provide healthcare. As you mentioned in your intro, I've been in various industries over the course of my 35-year career, from retail in my early career to manufacturing to internet in the first internet phase of when the internet became hot in the late 90s. Been involved in oil and gas. I've owned a broker-dealer. I've been in digital marketing. I've done several real estate deals. Currently residing and spending most of my time in health tech, but been involved in a lot of different industries, and I've always viewed myself as kind of an opportunist. I've never really been hung up on the particular service or product that I was involved in selling. I always like to pursue those markets that I thought had big market potential. And sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. But I think for me anyway, that's been the path that's led me forward.
Thanks for sharing. So you've been in a different industry. Obviously, digital marketing is another one. So how did you get into healthcare?
This is my first venture into healthcare. In 2016, my wife and I moved up to Cleveland. At that time, I co-owned a digital marketing platform with a partner here in Dallas, where I am at the moment. I live in Cleveland still, but I'm in Dallas at the moment, and I'm from Dallas. We moved to a suburb of Cleveland called Hudson in 2016, and I was introduced to a company called Global Telehealth Services, the company that I'm now a part of. And really like what they were doing. They were still kind of in the MVP stage of their business, but had what I consider to be a pretty compelling vision for this remote patient monitoring platform that they were designing for the purpose of monitoring chronic or patients with chronic conditions and trying to reduce hospitalizations. It seemed like a very innovative and disruptive technology that also had kind of a big data angle that I liked, because if you got enough patients on that platform, you're generating a tremendous amount of health data. And this was another one of those opportunities that I thought there was a, a big market and was potentially disruptive. And it was something I was interested in. Originally, I'd simply invested in the company, but was asked by the CEO at the time to join the company's executive team, which I did in 2016. That CEO is no longer with the company, and now another gentleman and myself essentially run the company, and I own a decent chunk of the company. So together we run it, and that was kind of my foray into health tech. So I did my due diligence at the beginning, saw what I believed to be and later confirmed was a very large market with a disruptive technology. And now we're pursuing a fairly niche space, but still an absolutely enormous market. And we're very excited about what the future of remote monitoring plays in the healthcare space.
So remote patient monitoring, telehealth, these are the two main offerings that you have?
Yeah, so it's a single platform that has both of those capabilities. So remote monitoring is essentially a software platform, and in our case, has the ability to read data from Bluetooth-enabled vital monitoring devices. Now, to clarify one point, we are not a hardware company. Um, uh, we're not involved in the manufacturing or even the sale of any specific vital monitoring devices. We have simply created this middleware layer that can have pretty much any vital monitoring device integrated into our software platform. So we have the ability to utilize essentially any vital monitoring device, or really any device that emits a Bluetooth signal for reading patient data. So it could be the most obvious devices like a pulse oximeter or a blood pressure cuff or a thermometer or a scale that all emit a Bluetooth signal, but it could also be things like a heart monitor or a sleep apnea machine, or the sky's really the limit. But if it emits a Bluetooth signal and emits patient data, we can pull that data and pull it into our platform. Now, as you mentioned, we also have telehealth capabilities, and we also have a bunch of other capabilities that I don't want to spend the whole podcast talking about, but there's a whole other series of technologies and capabilities within the platform, which is why we call it a treatment at distance. It's not just remote patient monitoring, pulling vital data. It's not just telehealth, giving the patient the ability to converse and have a conversation with their clinician. It's a whole suite of services that essentially make it a true treatment at distance platform. And for your listeners who may not be familiar with FedRAMP, I'll clarify what that means. We have a enterprise-wide contract with the Veterans Administration, and the VA is the largest hospital system in the world. And any company, any SaaS company, which is handling or managing federally owned data, and in our case, the vital data of veterans would be considered federally owned data. Those companies are required to go through the federal government's security and privacy authorization process, and that's what is called FedRAMP. FedRAMP is a extremely tedious, extremely deep, extremely rigorous process to go through in order to get what is essentially the highest security and privacy standard that exists, and be approved for that process to be able to essentially manage and handle government-owned data. And we are the only remote patient monitoring treatment at a distance platform that has the full FedRAMP authorization.
That's amazing. So obviously, being in a software development company where we also help the companies in that process, I can understand that how tedious, time-consuming effort is that. How did that impact your company's direction when you got the FedRAMP? Are you still working commercial as well, or is that the only focus? I was helping in terms of the company's defensibility and valuation.
Yeah, so we are pursuing commercial paths, but and I'll go back and kind of tell the story of why we went down the FedRAMP path in the first place. So we'd been talking to the VA. We'd been originally pursuing commercial opportunities. And what we realized after we had kind of completely developed the platform, even though we'd run a number of very successful pilots demonstrating the effectiveness of reducing hospitalizations using our platform, what we found in the commercial space with particularly the hospital systems that we were working with and pursuing was we learned that the mission of hospital systems, they say, is to help patients get better. What we learned was, yes, that is part of their vision, part of their mission, but utilizing technologies that keep people out of their hospital is not in their best interest. So that was one of the reasons why we were very interested in talking to the VA all the way back in 2017 when we first started talking to them, because the VA is very different than most hospital systems. They're both the provider of clinical services and medical services for veterans, but they're also the payer. So their primary interest is, in fact, improving the health of veterans, the 19 million veterans that they care for in the United States. And they're not as concerned as the private hospital systems, the commercial hospital systems, that our platform might keep them out of their medical facilities. In fact, many people that we've talked to have said that's a great thing, and it should be a great thing that our platform is very effective in keeping people out of their medical facilities. Now, when COVID hit in 2020, we were approached by the Veterans Administration. We had done a number of pilots with them. We were proving the effectiveness of our platform. We were trying to figure out what would be necessary in order for us to have a contract with the Veterans Administration. And when COVID hit, they approached us and said, we would like you to get FedRAMP authorized so that we can use your platform in our medical facilities to help COVID patients. And many years ago, apparently there was a program that fast-tracked companies through the FedRAMP process, because the FedRAMP took us 4 years, and that's normal for the normal FedRAMP process. But apparently in this old expedited program, it only took a matter of months. And because they thought that under the circumstances of COVID and the emergency nature of COVID, that they could resurrect that fast track program. So we began the process of this fast track FedRAMP program. And 6 months later, we still didn't have FedRAMP, and they were unable to, I guess, resurrect or get approval to resurrect this old program. And we figured that we were already down this path. We did realize that it would be a significant competitive advantage. So we decided that even though the fast track program wasn't available, that we were going to continue down the path of FedRAMP. We were approved, FedRAMP approved, meaning our platform could be used after about 2.5 years, but we didn't have our final full FedRAMP authorization that allowed us to be displayed in the FedRAMP store, the FedRAMP store online, for about 4 years. So it was a very expensive, very time-consuming process, but by virtue of us now having that platform, we're extremely well positioned in the federal government with the VA and any other federal agency that provides healthcare services.
Cool. So now with the AI, things are changing a lot. Are you using anywhere AI in your business, and how is it impacting?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. We get asked that a lot. What we have built is a very robust data pipe. And there are many ways that we could potentially utilize AI and predictive analytics to do things with that data. What we don't want to do, though, is try and predict what customers are going to want. So, in addition to, um, well, one of the ways we built our platform was with a great deal of flexibility in mind, so that if a customer did come to us and say, I want to use AI or predictive analytics for X, Y, and Z with all the data that's coming through from my patient base, we could, as opposed to trying to create that technology ourselves, bring an AI or analytics partner in and plug that technology into ours so that they could, pull that data and extrapolate it the way it needed to be extrapolated for the needs of that particular customer. So, we feel that we've developed a extremely robust data pipe, and we're going to let customers tell us how they want to utilize AI and predictive analytics, and then we'll partner with the right companies and technologies, as opposed to trying to create that ourselves.
Yeah. Now, that's a very interesting point because as you start using AI in healthcare, there are a lot of challenges, I would say, or you have to be aware of how those different architectures make a difference. So
Right.
obviously, you have to have the vendors, the LLMs sign the BAs so that there's a zero retention. Those are not being used for training. But also, as your data is huge, it's not that you just use the LLM to get the responses just like we do in ChatGPT. You have to have it's a RAG architecture. How do you put the sensitive data in it, uh, filter it? So there are strategies that you have to do. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I think it
exactly.
seems pretty interesting, like as you are going after this partnership model where you just expose the data for those customers, obviously under those certain regulations, under HIPAA compliance, and then let the AI handle that and give the prediction or insights of that data. So that would
Yeah,
be a
exactly.
great.
And the other piece that once we became FedRAMP authorized, that dramatically changed what we could or couldn't do relative to that data. Because to your point, I mean, HIPAA is one level, but FedRAMP is a much higher standard with regard to patient data. So we had to be very careful about what we thought about doing, and the FedRAMP agency within the federal government is still trying to wrap their heads around how are they going to manage AI, and utilize it, or not utilize it in terms of the companies that are within the FedRAMP marketplace. And anyway, we're still waiting for those standards to come out, but that was another reason for us not trying to integrate that type of technology, because of the the fact that FedRAMP was leery at this point, or in the past year up to this point. Now, it's unclear what's going to happen in the future, but that'll get sorted out at some point.
Yeah. So using AI in a healthcare data is one thing, but now AI is everywhere. Are you using in your other business processes, in your development, in your QA, different processes where you're not touching the PHI data, but still AI is empowering a lot of different organizations in achieving things much faster?
Yeah, particularly in the last year, we have a group that we outsource a lot of our development to, and they're using various AI tools. We're using AI tools now for the development of marketing materials and pitch decks, and all sorts of creative materials that we develop internally. As well as strategy. AI has gotten, particularly good at, being able to assist with verification of certain market strategies, and we've utilized it for that as well.
Cool. Remote patient monitoring, it's growing. Obviously, it picked up the momentum during COVID and now it's rapidly growing. Where do you see RPM going in the next 5 to 7 years?
Yeah, I'd say that COVID in the last 5 years has definitely shined a spotlight on RPM. Telehealth is the thing that really exploded during COVID. And in our view, RPM is kind of that next natural step beyond telehealth because it gives clinicians, doctors, nurses, whoever, the ability to now interact with their patient in a way that a simple video conference didn't give them that ability. And, we've been somewhat surprised, and COVID may have changed the dynamics of what was happening in the market. We really thought RPM was poised to explode back in 2016, 17 when we were first developing the platform. But, because of how, the questions around how would it fit into workflows, how would it impact the business models of the big hospital systems, it hasn't been as quickly adopted as we hoped. But we're looking for those organizations like the VA that are very interested in adopting it. There's a lot of very innovative new technologies, both on the hardware and software side, that I think will help to quickly or more quickly advance the adoption of RPM. But I feel like we're, as being a software only company, are extremely well positioned to be able to capitalize on both of those areas of momentum because, again, we can integrate pretty much any vital monitoring device and we can embed or utilize other software technologies that we can integrate with our platform as well.
Okay, cool. So coming back to your joining this company, I believe 2016, you said.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts or advice on people who are, let's say, looking into a new market? Is it better to start a new company versus acquiring or getting those top leadership role into those companies and grow faster?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question because I've done both. As I said, if I knew then what I know now about how quickly or slowly this market was going to develop and how long things like FedRAMP would take, we might not have done some things like we did, but here we are now. We decided to go down the paths we went, and this is the position we're in. I think it depends on the market you're in. It depends on the momentum that market has. It depends on the ability of you to be able to scale. And I'm talking really more in terms of should you start something versus get involved with something more established and existing. But if you're starting something, you need to have the ability to last if things take longer, such as the market developing than you originally anticipated. Everybody has a marketing plan or a market plan when they start a new company, and they have to make a lot of assumptions about where that market is today, about where it's going to be in the next year, 3 years, 5 years, and some of those assumptions turn out to be right. A lot of the time, those assumptions turn out to be wrong. So I would say, your ability to outlast your assumptions is critical in starting a market. On the other hand, you bring up the idea of does it make sense to, join something or buy something that's already existing? I'd say that is assuming the company that you're joining or starting already has product market fit, a pretty good and growing customer base. That allows you to probably move more quickly, but you might be somewhat locked into where that company's already headed. And if you're already kind of moving down a path, it might be difficult, maybe, not always, but might be more difficult to change directions of that ship without disrupting what's already happening in the company. So I've done both. I've been successful in both, and I've been unsuccessful in both. So it really just depends on kind of circumstances of that individual business. I wish I had a more clear answer, but like I said, I've seen both, and sometimes it's worked, and sometimes it hasn't.
So I think what was one thing in the GTS that made an impact? Obviously, FedRAMP seems to be the major one. Was it the main turning point that helped on the growth, or were there any other things that you did that became a key differentiator or help on a pedestal?
Yeah, I think, as you said, FedRAMP was definitely the biggest one. Learning how to sell to the government is, I mean, that was all new to us. We didn't have anybody inside our company that had experience selling to the government, and selling to the federal government is extremely difficult. The VA, most federal agencies are huge, slow-moving bureaucracies with political implications. There are fiefdoms, there are power struggles, and they, in our experience anyway, are very slow moving, particularly for newer companies. Now, if you're a big established company like Microsoft or Google or Salesforce or Oracle, you might be able to move the needle more quickly. But if you're a young company trying to get into the government, it's extremely difficult. We also were able to secure an enterprise-wide contract with the VA. That took a number of years as well. And connecting with the right people that could help influence that process, because again, it's typically not one person you have to know, it's multiple people and many, many steps that have to get taken and many pieces of a puzzle that have to get fit together in order to secure the type of contract that we secured. So, going down that path and actually getting the contract was also, I don't know if it was as important as getting our FedRAMP, but it was certainly number two on the list. And now that we have both FedRAMP and a federal contract with the VA, anybody within the VA, anybody that's in the VA will tell you that the two most difficult things to overcome are, is there a contract in place? Because getting that contract can take years. And is it a secure purchase? In other words, do they have FedRAMP? And if they do, and they have funds available, everybody says that's like hitting the easy button. If they have the funds available, they can buy it. If they don't, if a company doesn't have those two pieces, then it can literally take years before a purchase can happen, even if they want to buy the product and have the money available to purchase it. If they don't have a contract vehicle, they don't have an authority to operate or an ATO or FedRAMP, if it's a software product, it's a long, tedious process.
One of the last question, what's one early mistake you made that completely changed how you evaluate opportunities today,
Within GTS or just in my career?
just in your career?
Yeah, and this was not related to GTS. In another company that I started, I allowed to be involved in our company a person that was extremely intelligent, extremely impactful, but I didn't trust. And I allowed that person to be involved in our company longer than I should have. And even though they were very smart and having really a huge impact on our company in a positive way, there was a reason I didn't trust him. And the reasons for me not trusting him came back to have a very negative consequence for the company. So my best advice would be very careful about the people you go into business with. And if you don't trust somebody, or if you lose trust in somebody, part ways with them immediately.
That's really good advice. People are key. So
Absolutely.
they're
And
as
trust
they
your
said,
gut, trust your instincts, trust your gut. Trust is it seems like an obvious thing. It seems very black and white, but sometimes it gets a little fuzzy. And I allowed something that should have been more black and white in my head, because I knew in my head, I did not trust this person. Yet I allowed myself to persuade myself that, yeah, they were having an impact, and yeah, they were smart, and they were having a really positive impact in many ways. I allowed that to influence my decision to keep that person in our company longer than I should have. And like I said, it came back to bite me very, very hard later down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Culture is a big thing. The toxic people um, drain all the energies, uh, and your good people leave. And as they say, either you're on the bus or off the bus.
That's
So
right.
that person, if not the right person, probably is already off the bus. So
Yeah, exactly. Good way to put it.
okay, um, so if you were uh, starting from scratch today in telehealth, or anybody starting, what advice would you do? Like, where should you focus? Where would you focus?
If we did it all over again, boy, that's a really good question. The reality is maybe not telehealth so much, but RPM is still very much in its infancy. And it is still unclear to me who the big winners in this space are going to be. Um, if I were doing it again, I might not go down the government path because I now know how long it takes, how expensive it is, and how difficult it is. But at the same time, I'm going to talk out of the other side of my mouth. We're extremely well positioned relative to any other company trying to do what we're doing. So even though we haven't hit the home run yet, we've put in the time, we've put in the work, we've put in the investment to position ourselves for that home run. Um, would I advise anybody else to go down the same path that we have? Maybe. You better have a lot of money and a lot of time. Um, but now that we've done it, I'd say we're extremely well positioned. But if I could tell my 8-year younger self that this is what it's going to take, I don't know if I would have done it. So I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth with that, but it's not clear to me what it's still not clear to me, and I'm not sure it's clear to anybody what the best approach in the remote patient monitoring space is going to be. Many people are taking a hardware first approach. Many people are taking a software first approach. We're one of the few companies taking the uh, hardware agnostic FedRAMP approach. In fact, we're the only one taking the FedRAMP approach, but I still believe that we will be enormously successful, but we won't be the only one. There'll be others too.
Good insight. Man, this has been incredible deep dive. Thanks for sharing your experiences. To wrap things up, I want to pivot to our rapid fire round. I'll just ask you a quick few questions. You don't have to overthink, just give your first quick instinct.
Sure.
Best book for the founders and why?
I just recommended this to a friend of mine. I still believe, and it's 2 books. I believe Rich Dad Poor Dad and Robert Kiyosaki's follow-up book to Rich Dad Poor Dad called The Cash Flow Quadrant are absolute must-reads for any would-be entrepreneur.
That's one of the good books. I gave it to my son during COVID, and he started investing in stocks afterward.
Yeah.
So that's definitely morning routine. Coffee first or deep work first?
Um, I get up very early and I work out. So no, I don't start with coffee. I start with deep physical work. Um, but yeah, that's my morning routine. I get up, I do a breathing meditation, I do CrossFit 5 days a week, and then I come home and start my day. But I'm focused on mind and body first thing in the morning, and then I move on to work.
Okay. One industry you think is leap proof right now, like maybe resilient to disruption, long-term stable?
Industry, AI.
If you had to invest in one industry that you feel is structurally durable over the next 20 years, what would it be?
It'd be AI, but finding those investments that are undervalued is difficult.
Okay. Any favorite business tool you can't live without?
Now it's ChatGPT.
One myth about entrepreneurship you want to debunk?
It's easy.
Biggest lesson that cost you the most money?
Trusting somebody or allowing a person I didn't trust to stay involved in my business.
Okay. Last question. What are your thoughts on any new opportunities or where the world is going that you can see in healthcare or AI or maybe combined? What's the future?
Now, I'm not clear where it's going to go, but I think there will be a huge utilization in AI in terms of being able to predict health outcomes based on the capturing of vital data. And again, I think we're right at that intersection, which is one of the reasons why I think we're positioned so well. I truly believe that utilizing our platform or a platform like ours, that if you can capture enough vital data from a patient using AI and predictive analytics, you'll be able to predict the lifetime other health outcomes of that individual. And I think that the tools that we've created are going to truly revolutionize the healthcare industry.
So, Brendan, where can people find you?
LinkedIn's probably a good place. I don't spend that much time on other social media. So yeah, I'd say if somebody wanted to reach out to me, LinkedIn's the best place. Brendan Coughlin, and I think it's / Brendan Coughlin.
Yeah,
Brendan
we will add it in our resources. We'll also add your company website.
Perfect.
That way people will have both. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your insight. Thanks for your deep insights on this topic. It was great to have you. I'm sure our audiences will have a lot more questions and they can reach out to you through the mechanism that you share.
Terrific.
Thanks again.
I look forward to it.
For being.
Thanks, Gazenfer. Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lessons from the Leap podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'll catch you next time.